Hi folks, Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Here, a blog post I want to share with you, of course, for you the latest in social media and technology. These are two really cool phones that we're taking and reviewing today. They're both from amzn.to. That's AT&T.com. This is the Samsung Galaxy S4, which has come out, and we'll be comparing it today with the AT&T Lumia 920 Nokia Lumia 920, as you may want to say it. We're going to be comparing these two phones. Now, there's some distinct differences between these two phones. This S4 has a 1080p screen, 1080p front-facing camera, much faster processor, a much different camera, where this is a 13 megapixel compared to this 8, but you may be surprised what we find later in the video. And also, you've got two differences between the OSs here. You've got an Android product and a Windows product, very different in how they're set up and working. An app store that's much larger with the Android product and the Samsung S4. And a removable battery and expandable memory that you can take and do with the S4 that you can't do with the Nokia Lumia 920. You can actually add a micro SD card to the back of it and remove batteries, flip them out on the go, where with the Nokia you're locked into a unibody system. So we're going to break down these two units and give you an idea as to which one might be better, and probably let you decide as to which one might work the best for you. On the Samsung Galaxy S4, we're looking at a height of 5.38 inches, 2.75 in width, and 0.31 in thickness. Comparatively with the Nokia Lumia 920, we're looking at a height of 5.12 inches, 2.79 width, and 0.42 inches in thickness. On the weight of the Samsung S4, we're looking at 4.59 ounces comparatively to 6.53 ounces on the Nokia Lumia 920. Much heavier when you really look at the two. Now, on the Samsung S4, we're running Android 4.2.2. That's the very latest Android version there is currently on the market. With the Nokia, it's a very different phone. It's running on Windows 8. Okay, so on the Samsung S4, we're looking at a screen that is a Super AMOLED screen, 16.7 million colors, capacitive multi-touch screen. On the Nokia, you're looking at an LCD color TFT with 16.7 million colors, pure motion IPS. The battery that's on the Samsung S4 is 2600 milliamps comparatively to 2000 milliamp hour battery on the Nokia Lumia 920. On the hardware chipset for the S4, you're looking at a Qualcomm Snapdragon 600. It's a quad-core chip, 1.9 gigahertz Crowd 300, 2 gigabytes of RAM, 16 gigabytes of built-in storage, and micro SD expansion up to 64 gigabytes. There's also talk that there's going to be another model coming out that will do 32 gigabytes of RAM. On the Nokia Lumia 920, you're looking at a 1.5 gigahertz Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 dual core instead of quad core that's on the S4. It's got 32 gigabytes of internal storage, 1 gigabyte of RAM. So those are some of the differences we're going to see there. Now, on the Galaxy S4, there's one major difference. It has a 13 megapixel camera, front-facing and rear-facing 1080p, 30 frames per second video, and then front-facing camera, 2 megapixels there. Now, with the Lumia Nokia 920, we're looking at 8 megapixels out the back. Front-facing camera is going to be, I believe, let's see if we can find it here, 1.2 megapixel, and it's got 1080p out the front, and I'm not really sure what the resolution is out the front for video, but I know it's not 1080p. So that gives you a rundown of both these devices. They both have NFC chip technology in them, all the latest stuff, but there's some really big differences in how these phones break down. You can receive notifications on the Nokia Lumia. You can see here it has the live tiles that are very active with all sorts of stuff going on, updating for your friends, etc. and everything else. On the Android product, many people like the Android product because it's very customizable. You can create different widgets, background live wallpapers like the one you can see here with the Iron Man 3 theme going on in the background. People tend to like that, where they can customize that. The drop-down menu of notifications is fairly good, and it also has several different things you can take and do with the technology to have different things activated and working in the design of it. The smart menu is really smart when it comes down to being able to quickly edit things, turn things off, power saving, multi-window. One thing that the Samsung Galaxy S4 has is what's called multi-window, where it can split 2 windows on the screen at the same time, whereas it's not something you could do with the Nokia Lumia. With the Nokia Lumia, you have, of course, these live tiles in the Metro. You can flip to the right to left, and you can see a list of your apps that are there. You can do something, of course, it's fairly similar on the Samsung S4. Samsung S4, you can also make different widgets and apply those to the device. Many people like to be able to customize their widgets and everything else. Can't really do that with the Nokia, unfortunately. And of course, it's running on different software. Another big thing that's the difference between these two products is the App Store that's on the Android is much larger. It has a much more huge amount of apps than the Windows. The Windows is still struggling to come up with a good fair amount of apps. Although they are slowly getting there, slowly but surely, but it does seem to be taking more time as Windows is trying to get people to develop for its app structure. You can see there's a lot of big name apps that we picked up: Box, CNN, Discuss, Facebook, of course, Flood, News, Google Mail, let's see, LinkedIn, some other things here. Netflix is on here. I don't believe Hulu's on here. Last time I checked, Hulu was not on here. Skype, of course, Spotify, The Verge, Twitter. You do end up paying a little bit more for apps, though, on the Windows product than you would normally pay on either the Apple iOS systems or the Android systems. So that really just comes down to what your feel is about the devices and everything else. Their app stores are definitely very different in their setup and look. And I would say most people that are Windows folks probably aren't really that far into an app store and getting apps. They like having a good solid phone. They like having a phone that will take and do the job that it needs to do. And in doing so, they're looking for something that's got a beautiful screen. It's great to watch movies and videos on it. You can see their store is set up very differently with these very big words, as are most of the menus that are in the Nokia. Let's go back to the App Store. You can see, of course, they're set up very differently in their presentation and format in each of these different devices, respectively. So let's take and go back to the Samsung. There are several different things that separate the Samsung in terms of all the latest software, bells, whistles, toys, and things that it can take and do. So let's go ahead and do a quick rundown through those. There's the multi-window that we talked about, of course. There's the NFC chip technology, which is also in the Nokia. But Samsung has a lot of stuff where you can work together with other Samsung devices in holding the phones up to each other and being able to share data, etc., etc. Now they have something on the Samsung that's called Air Gestures. And basically, Air Gestures gives you a way for, in certain apps, you can wave your hand across the sensors. You can take and control the swipe without even having to touch the screen. They have something called Air View, where you can take and hover your finger over the screen, and it will take and pop stuff up without having you take and touch the screen. It's very brilliant. They have Smart Stay, which will take and detect your eyes looking at the camera. You've got Smart Rotation, which determines which way you're looking at the camera and how it rotates from landscape to portrait. You've got Smart Pause, which detects your face with the front camera when a video is playing, and if you look away, it knows that you looked away, so it pauses the video so you don't lose your place. You've got Smart Scroll, where you can actually control your eyes to go up and down, or by moving the device, you can page up and down on a page. It's really astounding stuff that they have on the Samsung Galaxy S4. They put a lot of thought into it, and the menu and everything else. Multi-window is very cool. The S-Beam is very cool. Screen mirroring. You can see here the Air View, where in certain applications, if you just simply hover over them, you can take and utilize them. Here's an example of how we use multi-window, where we can take a multi-window experience and have one program running in one area, and then we can create another area where I'm reviewing photos, but I'm in my Facebook up here. And if I rotate this the other way, the rotation will continue. So very cool that way with what Samsung puts into their software. There's Air View, which of course, like I said, you can hover over stuff. There's Air Gesture. There's Smart Stay, which will keep the screen on if it senses you're watching. There's Smart Scroll, which can, like I said, work with movements and things of that nature. Really brilliant design that they put into the software on the Samsung. In fact, for me, I think it's really awesome. But it really depends on what you want to do with your mobile phone and how you want to do it. Here you can see I'm going to hover over the screen, and if you see there, we can see that this pops up a menu just by me hovering over the screen, and it makes some changes. I don't even have to touch the screen, which is pretty freaking amazing when it really comes down to it, and in seeing how things work. In gallery mode, I can take and swipe through the, now I'm not, once again, not touching the screen in these modes. I can take and go through photos and everything else just by merely swiping through them. So I'm not even touching the screen here. I'm just running my finger over the sensors. Very cool in how the presentation of it works. They put a lot into the software too. We'll get into the camera here in a bit. There's a lot in the camera work that they took and did. But there's a lot of native software that they put on it. Some people don't like when makers put their own software on these devices, but they've actually put some really cool stuff, and we'll take a look through them here as we go. You can of course see the AT&T software on here, which some people, they don't like the carrier software that's put on their devices. There's something called Group Play, and what Group Play is a way for you to share with up to 3 friends, basically videos that you might be watching, music that you want to play, etc., etc. I believe it only does it for half an hour, so that I suppose you're not, sharing a whole mess of stuff and breaking copyright laws, things of that nature. There's a whole warning it goes through about that. But it's kind of interesting where you can share stuff. There's also another app on here. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this does have an infrared across the top, so you can control your TV, you can control anything that has an infrared thing with it's basically stereo system based. I think we're getting into something else completely here. But in the top of the Samsung Galaxy S4, there is an IR blaster. So you can take and do that. How interesting is that? Let's take a look at some more apps if we can find them here. We're looking for optical reader. This is a very interesting app that comes with the program. You can point this at words, contacts, or information. It will take and translate for you and do different auto modes, look stuff up, things of that nature. Very cool. There's of course Google Now that's on here, and everything else. Let's go ahead and flip over a little bit more. There is something called Story. I believe it's Storyline, Storybook, or something of that nature. Let's see if we can find it here. Story Album, and it creates those widgets that you saw with my dog, where you can put all your pictures into an album so that it tells a story and plays it. There's also S Health, which you saw counting my steps earlier, and this will keep track of your weight, your height, and your age, and be able to basically see how many calories you burn, how much you're walking per day, give you some health feedback on what you're doing in your life. There's Samsung apps, which are kind of a place where they feature stuff. There's also S Translator, where you can take and use the device to translate stuff. You can take and use this, enter text of what you want to say or what you're hearing or whatever it is, and it will speak it for you, which is pretty brilliant when it comes down to it. You've got the Samsung Hub, Samsung Link, really good apps that they took and put on here for utilizing this. There's some video editor that I downloaded. Watch On is the thing that works with your TV IR receiver, and you can take and click into different shows that you may want to watch, and you can use the device as a remote. Very cool, very cool. And what they've set up, I really thought a lot in here. So you can see it's playing my story here, and it's showing me my goal steps here in the widgets, which is very neat. So they really put a lot into the production of the native software that they put into it and the UI that they've thought out for both these devices. Unfortunately, you don't see that a lot in the Windows Phone. It still is kind of running on the basis of what Windows has done with it up to this point in time. Okay, so let's take a look at both these devices. At the top we have your speaker on the Samsung for making calls, and you got several different sensors. You can see a whole bunch of them up in there. And then on the Nokia we have the speaker, front-facing camera over here for the S4. We have a home button per se on the Samsung Galaxy S4, and capacitive touchscreen with both back button and menu button. For the Nokia, we have a home capacitive touchscreen, back capacitive touchscreen, and a search element where you can take and search the web. And of course, it's integrated with Bing. Bing is it's a Microsoft phone. So both devices are very interesting in their build. Let's take a look at them. Now, across the top of the Samsung S4, you've got an earphone jack, microphone hole, and the IR blaster where you can take and control your TV. Very interesting and coolest latest thing you're seeing on many of the smartphones coming out nowadays. We have the SIM card tray, a earphone jack. It's kind of cool that it's in the middle on the Nokia. If you're left or right-handed, it tends not to get in your way, and a small microphone hole there. You can see the size difference between both these devices and thickness and everything else, or at least get an idea of it. We went through some of the numbers. They're fairly similar. On the right-hand side of the S4, we have the power button. On the right-hand side of the Nokia, we have your volume rocker button. The power button, we actually have a camera button here. Let's go ahead and turn these around. On the left-hand side, we pretty much have nothing on the Nokia. On the left-hand side of the S4, we have a volume rocker button. On the bottom of both devices, on the Nokia, we've got a sync charge port and your speakers, and on the Samsung, we have your sync charge port and a small microphone hole. Going to the back of both devices, we'll bring them in. You can see here that we have on the S4 a large camera eye, the lamp flash. We have the speaker that sits behind a thing here. One thing it does do is there's a small bend out that holds it up off of the desk or flat surface that it might ride on, and makes it so you can still hear the sound. On the Nokia Lumia, we have the lamp flash and we have the camera eye here. That's pretty much it. Now, several different things that are very different about both these devices. The Samsung S4 has a removable back. Many people call it a plastic sort of device. You've got a place here for your micro SD card and your SIM card, and you also have a removable 3100 milliamp hour battery, which is kind of cool. You can see the speaker exposed there. So it's kind of nice where you can change and expand your memory here. Now, what's also interesting about the Nokia is its build too. It was built as what's called a unibody, where it is a one-body device. It's all single unit, one body. And it was designed to prevent stuff like antenna gate that the iPhone had several years ago from happening, where the case would interfere with the signals of the device. Now, one thing that's interesting too is it's the same color all the way through. If you were to scrape or dig into this plastic, you would find that the color would not change. It's the same poured color all the way through, thereby giving it that unibody sense. And it makes it feel very solid as a phone, as opposed to some people who claim that the S4 is a little plasticky for them. So very interesting in the build on how they did the Nokia Lumia 920. And very scratch proof too on the back. You can take and slide it around like a sand pit, and it tends to hold up really well in the quality of the device. Now, once again, here's where we're going to see some separation between these devices. Samsung, in this latest rendition, the S4, has put in a multitude of different customization features and everything else that are found in almost no other phones currently on the market. So let's get into those. They've taken some of it from their Samsung Galaxy phone. You've got, of course, lots of different customizable features you can take and do here. But going in deeper to some of the different things, you can, of course, control photo size, burst shot, face detection, metering, anti-shake, auto night detection, video size over here, GPS tagging, review, volume key, timer, white balance, exposure value. Some of this you can do over on the Nokia, but not quite as much. Shutter sound, etc., etc. Now, on the S4, you've got several different things that you can get into. Auto night detection. You can take and do voice control, where you can say certain words to get the camera to activate itself. You can control the shortness or length. You can even do slow motion or fast motion video, which is very weird, wild I should say. You can share shots automatically to different areas when you take and do them. Of course, you can control the flash. Now what's interesting too is they have something that's called mode. And this they use very well in their Samsung Galaxy camera, one of which I have. You see all these different auto mode shots where you've got auto mode, beauty face, best photo, best face, shot and sound. You can do drama shots where you can see people moving across the camera in multiple shot photos. Animated photo where you can get a photo to move, capture sound and everything else. Rich tone, HDR, eraser where you can erase people out of the back of the photos. Panorama shots, sports shots, night shots. Pretty amazing stuff that they've taken and put into the customization mode that's in here. And you can literally just go through, flip through, choose the one that you want to do, and take and shoot it. And it does a very interesting job at being able to pre-program the camera for you and being able to give you that customized control. You can even edit the quick settings that are on here, so you can easily have settings that can get you doing what you want to take and do. You can see volume keys, video stabilization, GPS tagging, guidelines, exposure values, all that sort of stuff. Really crazy what they put into the software, but it really works. I mean, it's just crazy. There's so much of it. On the on the Nokia Lumia 920, you do have some controls over iOS settings. Let's see if we can't get back into that. See if it'll work with us here. No, it's not going to work with us here. One of the problems with having big fingers is this here. So, photo settings. Okay, so we can see here we have different scenes you can do, ISO, exposure values, white balance, aspect ratios. Not a whole lot of controls that you can take and really get into as comparatively to the Samsung S4. White balance, continuous focus in video, and video mode. So you can see there's a whole difference in the software between these two devices when it comes to the camera. Okay, so let's take a look at the cameras on both these devices. Here you can see that we've got the 13 megapixel S4 against the Lumia 920. Now the colors do look a whole lot more richer on the S4 as opposed to the colors on the Nokia, but there are some differences in the details as we blow these up. Now you can see that the detail is fairly good on the on the S4. On the Nokia, when we blow this up, you can actually see some better detail actually, I think a much better picture in this low light situation on the Nokia. So very interesting in how that came out in the difference between the two. Color's much richer over here, but the detail seems to be a little bit more better on the Nokia. Let's take a look at the next picture here, since that's what our camera wants to do. And you can see here that the detail is actually a little bit better on the Nokia. The color is much more richer over here on the Samsung, but the Nokia has some really good detail to it. Very interesting. In most of these situations aren't in the greatest of light situations, so it's very cool how the Nokia is making these pictures work. One of the tricks that Nokia has is it takes a photo, or it takes a flash right before it takes a photo in low light situations, thereby giving it the best way to get a hold of the field of vision. Here's another great photo between the two devices. You can see here, actually the Nokia does look better in my mind. Between the two devices, you can see the image is much more clear and defined. in the Nokia. Now here's something even more interesting. In fairly normal light, you can see here that on video, the S4 gets a little bit more brighter colors, but there's much more detail you're going to be able to see in the Nokia. I'm really surprised by this. You see how we can see the lines much better as we fade in here? There's much more detail and everything kind of bleeds out. Wow, I'm really amazed. Let's take a look at low light situations. In low light situations, the Nokia definitely has a really good flashbang, as you can see here. Flashes very well. The Samsung definitely holds its own, but I would say that the Nokia wins this battle on this front. And let's see, we're going to take a look at the lamp on video in complete darkness for both these. Let's see how they came out in each of them. Wow, it actually looks like the Nokia came out with better shot. It's much more clear. The S4 has a really bright lamp to it, almost brighter than the Nokia, but the Nokia actually has things more in focus and a much better color. So very interesting as to how these two played out. We do know that the Nokia camera is a really good camera, so pretty interesting how that turned out. So all in all, I've liked both devices. I've played with both devices quite a lot, especially the Lumia. I've had it for longer. Definitely the Lumia holds its own when it comes to its camera and being able to shoot and being able to take great photos. The Samsung S4 definitely has a lot of great software to it and customizable features and everything else. I'll let you decide which one you like better. You can get both these phones actually from amzn.to. That's amzn.to. Be sure to like our video, give us a thumbs up, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to amzn.to. Tell them Chris Voss sent you. Chris Voss tested, Chris Voss approved. Be sure to check into the Chris Voss Show.com often, as we are constantly updating and making new videos of these great phone comparisons from all the major carriers. Thanks for coming by.